They called her the class loser, the girl everyone laughed at. They spread rumors, stole from her, humiliated her in ways no teenager should endure. But 10 years later, when she received the invitation to her high school reunion, no one expected the moment that would change everything. The girl they mocked was coming back. And she wasn't walking. She wasn't driving. She was arriving in a helicopter. This is the story of Arielle Booker, a story of pain, betrayal, revenge, and triumph. And it all begins on the day the bullies thought they had won. Before we dive in, I want to know something. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments below. I love seeing how far this story travels and feeling connected to all of you watching from every corner of the country, or even the world. Your voice matters, and I can't wait to read every single one. Arielle Booker stepped out of the helicopter like someone who had walked through fire and learned to enjoy the heat. The wind from the spinning blades whipped her long, chestnut braids across her shoulders as she placed one polished heel onto the rooftop of the Marriott Hotel in New Jersey. The sky behind her glowed in a deep orange sunset, giving her silhouette a quiet kind of power, soft but impossible to ignore. Down below, the rooftop doors burst open, and the noise from the reunion party spilled out. Music, chatter, laughter. But the moment the crowd noticed the helicopter, everything froze. Glasses stopped midair. Conversations died mid-sentence. And then came the whispers. Who in the world is that? No way, that can't be her. Is that? No, it can't be. The wind softened as the pilot shut down the engine. Arielle adjusted her cream-colored suit jacket, feeling her heartbeat thumping beneath her ribs. It had been 10 years since she last saw any of them. 10 years since the hallway humiliation, the cafeteria insults, the rumors, the tears she never let them see. 10 years since they branded her with a title she had never asked for. The class loser. Arielle lifted her chin. She wasn't that girl anymore. She wasn't the scared kid with thrift-store sneakers and a trembling voice. Not after everything she had survived. Not after everything she had built. She took a slow step forward. And then she heard it. A gasp from somewhere in the crowd. Sienna Villard, the queen bully herself, stood frozen near the bar in a sparkling silver dress that suddenly felt cheap compared to Arielle's quiet elegance. Her lips parted, eyes wide, like she was seeing a ghost. Briar and Kellen, two shadows from Arielle's past, stood on each side of her, stunned into silence. Sienna cupped her hand to her mouth. Oh my God, that's Arielle. Everyone turned. Heads swiveled. The whispers grew louder, heavier, meaner, curious, confused, all rolling into a single wave of disbelief that washed over the rooftop. Arielle forced her breath to steady. She had practiced this walk in her mind for months, calm, composed, unbreakable. But the truth was her stomach twisted with the same old ache she used to feel every time she stepped into those high school hallways. Memories flickered behind her eyes like ghosts tugging at her skin. She took another step, then another. She could see faces she recognized, people who had laughed at her, ignored her, pretended she didn't exist, called her names she never repeated out loud. Some blinked in confusion. Some frowned, searching their memories. Others smirked, probably assuming the helicopter was rented. Her palms grew warm. She pressed them against her hips discreetly. She had prepared for this moment emotionally, but nothing prepared her for the actual faces. The actual stares. The actual weight of stepping back into the same world that once crushed her. Then she saw him. Mr. Hampton, the only teacher who ever looked her in the eye like she mattered. He stood near the corner holding a small plate of snacks, blinking fast, shocked but proud. When his gaze met hers, his expression softened into something gentle, something warm, something like, "You made it, kid." Her chest tightened. She hadn't expected that feeling tonight. A soft memory slipped in. Mr. Hampton slipping a granola bar onto her desk during senior year, whispering, "Eat something, Arielle. You deserve strength." She fought off the sting behind her eyes. She wasn't here to break. She was here to show them what they created. Arielle stepped fully onto the rooftop, the city lights behind her sparkling like 1,000 tiny witnesses. The music still hadn't resumed. No one had moved. The air felt stretched, thin, electric. Then, from somewhere in the middle of the crowd, a man's voice rang out, loud and stunned. "Wait, guys, look, isn't that the woman who bought Fairfield Tech for $5 million last week?" The rooftop erupted in gasps. Arielle stopped mid-step. They weren't supposed to know. Not yet. Not tonight. Not like this. If Arielle's story already has you on the edge of your seat, make sure to show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and share this video with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Trust me, this story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss a single moment. 10 years earlier, in a small Maryland town filled with cracked sidewalks and tired brick buildings, 18-year-old Arielle Booker walked through the halls of Northridge High with her head lowered and her books hugged tightly to her chest. Her backpack strap was fraying at the edges, and her thrift store sneakers squeaked on the polished floor with every step, announcing her presence in ways she wished they wouldn't. Her hair was pulled into a neat afro puff. Her grandmother had styled it that morning, but even that became a target. "Why does her hair look like a dandelion?" someone whispered behind her. "Girl, that outfit came straight from the donation bin," another snickered. Arielle swallowed hard. Her throat tightened in that familiar way it always did when she wanted to disappear. She stuttered when she felt nervous, and the more she tried not to, the more the words tangled on her tongue. She had learned to speak less, live quieter, move like a ghost. But even ghosts got noticed in this school. Halfway down the hallway, she felt phones turned toward her, people snickering, thumbs tapping fast. A heat pricked her skin. Something was wrong. Something felt set up. Students whispered, eyes darting between her and their screens. A girl from her English class muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Did you see the post? Oh my God, this is wild." Arielle's stomach dropped. P-post? What post? The girl only smirked and walked away. By lunch, the damage had spread like wildfire. A cruel rumor had exploded across social media, claiming Arielle had confessed her secret crush on 3 different boys in exchange for money, a disgusting lie crafted to make her look desperate and pathetic. Screenshots circulated everywhere. A fake chat was posted with her name on it. Students pointed as she walked past tables, some laughing, others whispering behind hands. A few looked at her with pity, which was somehow worse than the laughter. She felt her face burn, her hands shake. Her throat closed so tight it hurt to breathe. By the time she stepped off the school bus that afternoon, she could barely see through her tears. She rushed up the walkway to the small beige house she shared with her grandmother and slammed the door behind her. Marva Booker, silver-haired and warm-hearted, stood in the kitchen stirring a pot of chicken soup. She turned, took one look at Arielle's trembling shoulders, and immediately set the spoon down. "Baby," Marva said softly, "come here." Arielle broke. She fell into her grandmother's arms, burying her face into the soft fabric of Marva's cardigan. Marva held her close, rubbing slow circles on her back the same way she had since Arielle was a child. "What happened, sweetheart?" They're lying about me," Arielle whispered, the words cracking. Everyone saw it. Marva sighed deeply, her voice gentle yet strong. "People hurt others when they see light they don't know how to handle. But you hear me, none of this junk they say matters. You are worth more than their whole noise." Arielle didn't feel worth anything at that moment, but her grandmother's voice wrapped around her like a blanket. Slowly, her breathing steadied. Her shoulders loosened. Marva kissed the top of her head. "We get back up. That's what Bookers do." For the first time all day, Arielle nodded. But the peace didn't last. The next morning at school, the halls buzzed louder than ever. She tried to move quickly, keeping her eyes on the floor, but the crowd seemed to shift around her like a tide she couldn't escape. Then she saw her, Sienna Villard, leaning against a locker, arms crossed, phone in her hand, a wicked smile on her red-painted lips. Sienna stepped into Arielle's path, holding the phone up like a spotlight. The screen was already recording. Arielle froze. Her heart pounded against her ribs, sharp and painful. "Please don't," Arielle whispered. Sienna's smile widened, slow and poisonous. "Oh, Arielle," she said sweetly. "You'll see." The video went live before first period even started. Sienna made sure of it. By the time Arielle reached her locker, the halls of Northridge High buzzed like a hive struck with a stick. Students huddled around their phones, laughing so loudly the sound bounced off the walls. Some pretended not to look at her. Most didn't bother hiding it. Arielle felt the air shift when she stepped inside the building, like every eye was a flashlight pointed at her. She didn't know what was happening yet, but the laughter dug into her skin like tiny needles. Then she heard her own voice, or something that sounded like it. A loud robotic version of her voice echoed down the hall from someone's phone. I, I, I like every boy in this school. Please like me back. Synthetic stutters. Repeating loops. A warped version of her face pasted onto a ridiculous dancing body. Her heart dropped to the floor. Sienna's video. She didn't need to see the whole thing to know it was bad. Sienna had recorded Arielle's plea from the day before, just those 2 words, please don't, and edited them into a mocking montage. She added fake love confessions, auto-tuned stutters, and text bubbles calling Arielle Northridge's thirstiest loser. By second period, the video had spread beyond Maryland. Someone uploaded it to TikTok. Another posted it to a statewide high school tea page. Comments poured in from schools Arielle had never heard of. LMYO, who is this? Girl wants attention so bad it's painful. She really said, PPP, please love me. This can't be real. Where do y'all find these people? Arielle walked down the hallway like she was moving underwater. Each laugh felt like it pressed her deeper into the floor. Her cheeks burned. Her palms sweated. She didn't even realize she had stopped breathing until her chest ached. By lunchtime, she was officially a meme. 2 boys at a lunch table replayed the video out loud, mimicking her stutter for everyone around them. A group of girls pretended to faint dramatically every time she passed by. Someone even taped a sign to her locker. Pick me girl of the year. Arielle tore it down quickly, but not fast enough to stop the snickers behind her. She pushed through the crowded cafeteria with her gaze glued to the ground. That's when she saw him. Kellen Rhodes. Star quarterback. Popular. Loud. Sienna's sometimes boyfriend, sometimes accomplice. But right now, he wasn't laughing. He was sitting at his table, untouched food in front of him, staring at the video on his phone with his jaw clenched tight. When Arielle walked past, he lifted his eyes. And guilt, raw, unmistakable, sat heavy in them. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He knew this had gone too far. Arielle looked away quickly, the weight of his silent apology only making the humiliation sharper. She didn't want pity. She wanted the day to end. She wanted her skin to stop feeling like it was on fire. She wanted her grandmother's warm arms and the safety of silence. But the worst part hadn't come yet. During last period, the school intercom crackled to life. Everyone went quiet as the principal's voice filled the classrooms with stern urgency. Attention, students. Administration is opening a formal investigation into this year's senior prank. Anyone involved will face suspension or expulsion. At this time, the prime suspect, based on submitted evidence, is... The silence stretched. Arielle's breath froze in her throat. Arielle Booker. The entire class turned toward her at once. Her blood turned cold. She didn't do anything, but someone wanted her to take the fall. Arielle sat stiffly in the plastic chair outside the principal's office, her hands trembling in her lap. The hallway felt colder than usual, as if the school itself had turned its back on her. Every few seconds, a student passed by and threw a curious glance, some whispering, some smirking, and a few pretending concerned they didn't really feel. Inside the office, muffled voices carried through the door, Principal Hargrove and Vice Principal Dunn discussing her fate like she was some troublesome file to be stamped and forgotten. Arielle's stomach twisted. She hadn't done anything. Not the prank. Not the rumor. Not the video. Nothing. But innocence didn't matter here. Not when Sienna and her clique had influence. Not when everyone already saw her as the girl who tries too hard. The door opened suddenly. Miss Booker, Principal Hargrove said, his voice firm but clearly exhausted. Come in. Arielle stood, legs shaking, and stepped into the office. The blinds were closed, making the room dim except for a sliver of sunlight across the desk. Hargrove folded his hands, leaning forward. Vice Principal Dunn stared with the kind of suspicion that made Arielle's chest tighten. We've received multiple reports, Hargrove began, linking you to this year's senior prank. I didn't do anything, Arielle stammered. I swear. Dunn raised an eyebrow. Students claim you created fake social media accounts to torment others, that you posted humiliating content as retaliation for earlier incidents. Arielle's mouth fell open. Retaliation? She didn't even have the courage to look people in the eye, let alone ruin their reputations. I would never. Hargrove sighed. Given the backlash from recent online content involving you, this situation appears related. We must take all allegations seriously. Her heartbeat pounded painfully. Please, I didn't do it." There was a long, heavy pause. Then Hargrove said quietly, "We're suspending you for 3 days while we continue the investigation." The words hit her like a punch. Suspension. For a crime she didn't commit. Arielle's breath came too fast. Her vision blurred. She felt small, powerless, trapped, exactly how the bullies wanted her. When they dismissed her, Arielle walked out of the office in a haze, barely feeling her feet on the ground. She left the building early, clutching her backpack straps as if they were the only things keeping her upright. That afternoon in her final class, a new substitute teacher introduced herself, Mrs. Lauren. She was older, with soft brown eyes and a voice that felt warm like a lamp in a dark room. She saw Arielle's tear-streaked face before the girl could hide it. When the bell rang, Mrs. Lauren gently touched her arm. "I don't know what you're facing, sweetheart," she said softly, "but I know strength when I see it. You don't fold, you endure." Arielle blinked, confused. No adult besides her grandmother ever took her side. Mrs. Lauren smiled. "You're smart. I can tell. If you ever want help applying to tech programs or scholarships, I'll guide you. You have a mind worth investing in." The kindness cracked something inside Arielle, something tight and hurting. She nodded, unable to trust her voice. Later that evening, when she got home, her grandmother Marva had already prepared dinner: baked chicken, collard greens, and cornbread. The smell filled the small kitchen with warmth that usually soothed Arielle's anxiety. They sat across from each other, and Arielle finally let the tears spill as she told her everything. Marva reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "They can try to break you, baby, but they don't get to decide who you become." Arielle nodded weakly, wiping her eyes. For a moment, the world felt steady again. Then it happened. Marva's hand slipped from hers. Her head swayed. Her spoon clattered to the floor. "Grandma," Arielle whispered. Marva blinked slowly, her face pale, too pale, and then she collapsed out of her chair. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and cold metal. Arielle sat rigid in the plastic chair, her fingers twisted together so tight they ached. The doctor's voice was calm, too calm, the kind adults use when delivering news they know will change someone's life forever. "Your grandmother's heart condition has worsened," he said gently. "She'll need ongoing treatments, medication, and regular monitoring. Without them, her health will decline quickly." Arielle tried to breathe, but the air felt thick. "How much will all that cost?" she whispered. The doctor hesitated. That was the worst part, when even professionals looked uncomfortable. "It's expensive," he admitted, "but we can explore financial aid options." She nodded numbly, though she knew exactly what that meant: a long list of paperwork, waiting periods, and help that rarely arrived in time. Her grandmother lay unconscious, her face pale, her breathing shallow. Arielle leaned close and brushed a curl from her forehead. "I'll take care of you," she promised, though her voice trembled. "No matter what, Grandma. I won't let anything happen to you." The next week became a blur, a storm she didn't have time to recover from. Arielle picked up 2 part-time jobs. During the day, she stood behind a gas station counter, the stale scent of diesel sticking to her clothes. Customers snapped fingers, complained, rushed her. She smiled anyway. She needed the paycheck. In the afternoon, she headed straight to the library. The quiet should have been peaceful, but even there, she felt pressure in her chest. She shelved books until her back burned, helped kids find storybooks, kept her phone on loud in case the hospital called. Her body was exhausted, but her mind kept whispering the same thing: "Keep going. Don't break. Not now." Every night she returned home past 10 p.m., her shoes dusty and her shoulders slumped. She warmed leftover soup for her grandmother, helped her take her medication, and sat with her until she fell asleep. Then, only then, Arielle opened her old laptop. The screen flickered like it was gasping for life. She searched for free coding tutorials, typing slowly at first. Variables. Loops, logic. She didn't understand everything, but she liked how coding felt like building something out of chaos, like turning confusion into clarity. For the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of hope. A tiny one, but still real. One night, as she watched a tutorial about JavaScript functions, the narrator said, "You don't need to be a genius. You just need to start." Arielle stared at the screen. She whispered, "I already started." Friday night, after her shift, she trudged toward the parking lot, keys in hand, when she noticed a small crowd gathered near her old Honda. Her stomach tightened. Laughter echoed. High-pitched. Cruel. Sienna's clique. Arielle pushed through the students, her heart pounding, and froze. They were filming themselves throwing bags of trash onto her car, sticky cups, half-eaten sandwiches, napkins smeared with ketchup. Sienna lifted her phone toward Arielle, smirking. Smile for the camera, future homeless billionaire. Arielle's breath caught. Then Sienna hit post, and the crowd roared. The video of Sienna's clique spread through school like wildfire, but Arielle refused to let it swallow her. She spent one night crying into her pillow, letting every insult burn through her. And the next morning, something inside her shifted. She woke up with an almost stubborn fire in her chest. If they wanted her to break, she would do the opposite. Between shifts, homework, and hospital visits, Arielle carved out small pockets of time. 20 minutes at the gas station during a slow hour, 10 minutes at the library desk when no one needed help, 30 minutes after midnight when her grandmother slept. Every second became fuel for one thing: learning tech. She devoured tutorials, took notes like her life depended on it, scribbled down ideas for apps, tools, and features she wished existed. She filled an old spiral notebook, page after page, with sketches, flowcharts, and plans. Her first real idea formed late one night as she watched her grandmother struggle to remember her medication schedule. Arielle whispered to herself, what if there was an app, something simple, something that reminds people with heart issues when to take meds, and connects to caregivers? She grabbed her notebook, drawing circles and arrows, writing features, imagining screens. She spent the next week obsessed with it. She practiced designing mock-ups on paper. She learned how notifications worked in mobile apps. She read about user interfaces. None of it was easy, but every tiny step felt like opening a door she hadn't known existed. When things got overwhelming, she'd hear Mrs. Lauren's calm voice. You belong in tech, Arielle. I see potential in you. Those words became armor. One afternoon at school, Mrs. Lauren waved her over with a warm smile. I have something for you, she said, pulling out a folded paper. Arielle blinked. What is it? Your registration confirmation. You're officially signed up for the state proficiency exam next month. Arielle's mouth fell open. But I never paid the fee. I couldn't. Mrs. Lauren touched her arm lightly. I covered it. No repayment. No questions. Consider it an investment in someone who deserves a chance. Emotion hit her like a tidal wave. Arielle's throat tightened, her eyes stinging. I don't know how to thank you. You'll thank me by passing, Mrs. Lauren said with a wink. And one day, by paying it forward. Arielle nodded, holding the paper to her chest like it was something sacred. For the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel like a cliff, it felt like a ladder. But fate wasn't done testing her. The next morning, she reached into her backpack for her coding notebook, her heart pounding with excitement, only to freeze. It wasn't there. She dumped the entire bag onto the cafeteria table. Books, pens, wrappers, everything spilled out except the one thing she needed. Looking for this. A voice behind her. Slow. Smug. Arielle turned. Kellen, Sienna's on-and-off boyfriend, held her notebook between two fingers like it was worthless. Her entire body went cold. Before she could speak, he smirked, flipped through the pages, and tucked the notebook into his back pocket. Tell Sienna I'll bring this to her later, he said. She'll love what's inside. Arielle's heart stopped. Her app ideas were gone. Kellen didn't even bother to hide what he was doing. After school, Arielle followed him down the hallway, her breath sharp and jittery, her palms trembling. She kept whispering, please, please don't give it to her, but her voice barely rose above a breath. Students brushed past, laughing, shouting, slamming locker doors, none of them noticing the quiet collapse happening inside her. Kellen reached the courtyard where Sienna stood with her clique, filming a new tea update for her followers. When she saw him approaching, her face lit with entitlement. Baby, what did you bring me? Sienna asked. Kellen held out the notebook. Arielle gasped. Kellen, please. That's mine. Give it back. It's important. Sienna flipped the cover open and scanned the first page. Her eyebrows shot up. Oh my God, she laughed, loud and sharp. This is adorable. You really think you're going to make apps? Like tech apps? She showed it to her girls. Look, little Miss Thrift-store wants to be a CEO. The girls shrieked with laughter. Arielle felt her knees go weak. The world blurred. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. Sienna, please, she whispered. It's all I have. Give it back. Oh, don't be dramatic, Sienna said, snapping the notebook shut. We're just having fun. Please. Sienna leaned in, eyes hard. If you want to play in the big leagues, Arielle, learn the rules. Nothing is private. Not even your little dreams. She winked at Kellen, who looked away, jaw clenched, and tossed the notebook into her designer bag like trash. Arielle broke. She walked away fast, head down, vision shaking. She didn't make it far. Behind the auditorium, she collapsed onto the ground, hugging her knees. The sobs came fast and violent. Years of humiliation found their way out all at once. The notebook had been the only place she let herself believe in something bigger. Losing it felt like losing air. But after the breakdown, guilt for crying shifted into a stubborn flame. No, she whispered to herself. They don't get to kill this. She wiped her face, pulled out a crumpled sheet of paper, and began rewriting from memory. She drew the medication reminder interface. She wrote every idea she could recall. The handwriting was shaky, the sketches uneven, but she kept going until her fingers cramped. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers again. And in that moment, she made herself a promise. No one would ever take her ideas away again. 2 weeks later, thick envelopes and thin envelopes arrived in their dented mailbox. Arielle's grandmother smiled weakly from her armchair. Go on, baby. Open M. Arielle tore open the first. Rejection. Second. Rejection. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Every single one. We regret to inform you. Her vision dimmed. Her throat closed. She held the final letter in her shaking hands, praying for mercy. She opened it. Another no. All of them. Every college she'd hoped would be her escape had shut their doors. Her grandmother whispered, Arielle? Arielle sat down slowly on the couch, letters falling around her like broken pieces. She stared straight ahead, body numb. Future gone. Path gone. And before she could breathe, a notification buzzed on her cracked phone. A new video from Sienna. Caption, guess who's trying to be a tech genius? The world was about to get even worse. Arielle barely slept that night. Rejection letters covered her bedroom floor like fallen leaves, thin, sharp reminders that the world had no place for a girl like her. She sat on the edge of her bed, hoodie wrapped around her shoulders, staring blankly at the wall. Her chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out the parts of her that once carried hope. In her mind, every rejection had a voice. Not good enough. Not smart enough. Not one of us. She didn't cry. She was past crying. Instead, she felt a numbness so deep she worried it might stay forever. When morning came, she moved like a ghost through the small kitchen. Her grandmother, Marva, sat at the table wrapped in her floral shawl. She looked tired, too tired for someone who spent her entire life fighting. But her eyes were warm, steady, knowing. You didn't come out your room last night, Marva said gently. Arielle forced a shrug. Just wrote a little. Marva nodded slowly. Sit with me. Arielle sat, feeling like a balloon that had already deflated. Her grandmother reached across the table and held her hand with surprising strength. Baby, listen to me. Greatness requires pain. Arielle blinked. Grandma. No. Let me finish. Marva squeezed her hand. The world don't hand success to girls like us. We gotta claw for it. We gotta bleed for it. But if you can endure the pain, if you can stand tall when everything around you wants you small, her voice softened, then you become unstoppable. Arielle swallowed, her throat aching. What if I'm not strong enough? Marva smiled, slow and certain. Oh, you already are. You're just hurting right now. Pain lies, but I don't. For a moment, warmth spread in Arielle's chest. A soft moment, one that felt like a lifeline. She leaned against her grandmother, breathing in her lavender scent, trying to borrow some of her strength. But when she left for her shift at the gas station later that afternoon, the numbness returned. She worked the register with blank eyes, ignoring the muffled laughs from a group of teenagers who recognized her from Sienna's latest video. Every beep of the scanner felt like a reminder. Everyone knew her as the joke. By the time she walked home that night, the sky was dark, the streetlights buzzing faintly. She checked her phone again. No acceptance, no good news. Just more notifications from Sienna's followers tagging her in comments she refused to read. She considered giving up, truly giving up, leaving her dreams behind, picking a simple life and letting everything else fade. Then, her phone buzzed. A notification. An email. Subject line, invitation, Rising Innovators Tech Incubator, Washington. Arielle froze beneath the streetlight. Washington. Invitation? Her hands shook as she opened it. Dear Arielle King, we have reviewed your independent project concepts and would like to invite you to join our upcoming incubator program for young innovators. Travel, housing, and materials will be fully funded. Her breath stopped. What? How did they even see my work? She whispered. At the bottom of the email was a signature. Dr. Kira Monson, founder. A real person. A real program. A real opportunity. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. This wasn't a scam. This wasn't another rejection. This was a door, one she never knew existed, opening just for her. But as she read the final line, her stomach flipped. Please confirm attendance within 48 hours. Arielle looked up at the night sky, breath trembling. A miracle had found her. But miracles always came with consequences. And she had no idea what saying yes would cost her. 2 weeks later, Arielle stepped off a budget bus in Washington with a backpack, a thrift store coat, and exactly $40 in her pocket. The city air felt different, faster, sharper, alive with possibility. Glass buildings reflected the sky like mirrors, and people hurried past with purpose. For the first time in a long while, Arielle felt like she might be walking towards something instead of running from everything. The tech incubator housing was a renovated old dorm near Union Market, paint still fresh on the walls. When she pushed open the door to her assigned room, she found someone already sitting cross-legged on the bed, brown skin, bright curls, and a piercing laugh. Please tell me you're Arielle, the girl said, jumping to her feet. Yeah? Arielle replied, unsure. I'm Marisol. New Jersey born, Miami raised. I talk too much, I love plantains, and if you snore, just let me know now so I can emotionally prepare. Arielle blinked, then let out a small laugh, her first real one in months. Marisol grinned wide. Good. I knew we'd get along. That night, they sat on the floor unpacking their 2 suitcases. Marisol told dramatic stories about her chaotic family. Arielle listened quietly, surprised at how easy it was to let this new girl into her space. Marisol nudged her at one point. You're too quiet. Tell me something about you. Arielle hesitated, then said, I like to build things. Apps, tools, stuff people need. Marisol's eyes lit up. Then you're exactly where you're meant to be. For the first time, Arielle dared to believe that. The next morning, the cohort gathered in a bright conference room filled with strangers who seemed smarter, richer, and more confident. Some wore tailored blazers and designer shoes. Arielle wore her only clean jeans and a faded hoodie. Dr. Kira Monson stepped up to the podium. Today, she said, we begin with your first micro-pitch. 90 seconds. No slides. Just you. A ripple of nerves swept through the room. Arielle's stomach dropped. She thought pitches came later, after learning, after preparing. She wasn't ready. But her name appeared on the second slide, right after a boy from Massachusetts who introduced himself by listing his family's patents. When he finished, polite applause filled the room. Arielle King, Dr. Monson called. A spotlight felt like it settled on her. Arielle stepped forward, hands trembling. She swallowed hard. My idea is a medication reminder app, she began. It's designed for seniors who take, multiple prescriptions, especially those who, don't have family nearby. A judge tilted her head. And your technical background? Arielle's voice thinned. I taught myself. Another judge smirked. From where? YouTube? TikTok? A few people chuckled. Arielle felt her ears burn. Yes, mostly on my own, she said quietly. And I've been, working 2 jobs, so I. One judge interrupted, laughing under his breath. This isn't a charity program. We're looking for people prepared for real tech careers. The air shifted. People shifted in their seats, avoiding her eyes. Arielle gripped her hands behind her back to hide their shaking. My idea solves a real problem, she managed. People like my grandmother. Another judge waved dismissively. Ideas are worthless without execution skills. What makes you think someone like you can compete here? Someone like you. The word sliced deep, too familiar. Another burst of laughter from the back row. Her throat closed. She stared at the floor, heat crawling up her neck, everything inside her screaming to disappear. Dr. Monson's face tightened, but she said nothing. Arielle stepped back slowly, humiliation coating her skin like oil. She had left Maryland to escape being the joke. Now she was becoming one all over again. And as she sat back down beside Marisol, who squeezed her hand in silent fury, the truth weighed heavy. Washington wasn't going to save her. She would have to save herself. The laughter from the pitch still echoed in Arielle's ears, but she refused to let it define her. That night, after Marisol fell asleep on her bed, Arielle pulled out her notebook and laptop. Every scribble, every half-formed idea she had rewritten after Sienna stole her original, she went over again. She typed lines of code, tested features, broke them, and rebuilt them. Each failure was a lesson. Each small success was a spark. By the third day, she had rewritten her prototype from scratch. The interface was cleaner, the notifications smarter, and the reminders adaptable for caregivers, families, or even community volunteers. She had automated the schedule and added a simple dashboard for monitoring adherence. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and it worked. During lunch, she met with one of the program's mentors, a woman named Vanessa Cruz from Miami. Vanessa was a tall, confident engineer with a laugh that cut through stress like sunlight. She had started coding at 15 and understood what it meant to fight against every expectation. "You've got raw talent, Arielle," Vanessa said, reviewing her code on the laptop. "But raw talent isn't enough. You need polish, efficiency, scalability. That's where I come in." Arielle nodded, taking notes eagerly. Vanessa guided her through debugging, taught her shortcuts, explained the importance of user flow. By the time the sun dipped below the Washington skyline, Arielle felt the familiar spark, the fire she thought she had lost in Maryland. "Remember," Vanessa said as they packed up for the evening, "everyone who's worth anything gets laughed at first. The trick is to outlast the laughter." Arielle smiled, tight but real, a fragile shield forming around her heart. She left the incubator that evening with renewed determination. Over the next week, Arielle stayed late every night, writing, testing, and perfecting. Marisol sometimes joined her, cheering her on or keeping her company when her hands cramped from typing. Their bond grew quickly, two survivors in different ways, leaning on each other in a world that wasn't kind. One evening, while Arielle ran the final iteration of her code on the laptop, a tall man in a crisp suit approached the incubator's glass doors. He watched quietly for a few minutes, then walked in, flashing a polite smile. "Excuse me," he said, his tone smooth, commanding attention. "I've been observing the young innovators here, and one project caught my eye." Arielle froze. Her heart skipped a beat. "My name is Mr. Dalton," he continued, "and I understand this is your work." He gestured toward her laptop. "Yes," she said cautiously, standing. "It's my prototype." He studied the code on the screen, nodding slowly. "Impressive. Simple, elegant, effective. Very few people, especially someone self-taught, can achieve this." Arielle felt her throat tighten. Compliments were rare. Confidence even rarer. Then he leaned in slightly, voice dropping. "I want to buy your entire prototype for $200,000. Arielle's eyes widened. $200,000. It was more than she had ever held in her life. More than enough to help her grandmother, pay off debts, or invest in her own future. But her chest tightened. Selling it now meant giving up her creation, the thing that represented every late night, every tear, every fight to survive ridicule and poverty. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen. And outside, the city lights of Washington glimmered like 1,000 possibilities, daring her to decide. Arielle sat frozen at the glass table, staring at Mr. Dalton, the private investor, as he leaned casually against the wall of the incubator office. The offer still echoed in her mind. $200,000. Her grandmother's hospital bills. The rent she barely managed to scrape together. Food. Books. The thought of relief tugged at her chest like a siren's song. "Think about it, Arielle," Dalton said smoothly, his voice silky and dangerous. 200 grand today? You could pay for everything you've been struggling with. Forget late nights. Forget stress. You deserve this. Arielle's fingers twitched. The temptation clawed at her like wildfire. Her mind raced with numbers. Rent, hospital bills, new laptop, textbooks, coding courses. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to think he was her golden ticket out of the nightmare she'd been surviving for so long. "And if you hesitate," Dalton added, tilting his head, "someone else will snap this up. You're lucky I even noticed." Luck. The word grated against her soul. Arielle clenched her fists, trying to push back the anxiety. Before she could respond, Marisol stepped into the office, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Wait," she said, voice firm. "Read the fine print. Don't sell your life's work because he waves cash in front of you. $200,000 now might cost you millions later." Arielle blinked at her roommate. Marisol had a point. She had seen stories of young innovators signing away everything, only to watch investors control their ideas while the creators ended up empty-handed. Dalton chuckled softly, clearly amused by Marisol's intervention. "Advisors are always helpful," he said. "But remember, the world rewards the bold." Arielle swallowed, torn between desire and caution. Her heart pounded in her chest. She opened her laptop to review her files once more. The prototype, the code, her diagrams, every line of work she had painstakingly rebuilt from scratch after Sienna's theft. And then she noticed something. Her main folder, the one labeled Arielle app_prototype, was opening by itself. A subtle movement on her screen, but enough to make her chest tighten. She blinked. "What are you doing?" she demanded, voice low but sharp. Dalton's eyes flicked toward the laptop. "Just checking compatibility. Making sure it works," he said, his smile tight. "Practiced." Arielle's stomach dropped. The hesitation in his tone didn't match the casual posture. She leaned forward, her fingers hovering over the trackpad. The cursor moved. Files were being copied. Her prototype. Her work. Her life's effort. "No," she shouted, slamming her palm on the desk. Marisol jumped, grabbing the USB cable as Dalton tried to pull it toward him. "Hey," she yelled. Dalton froze, a flash of irritation crossing his polished face. "This isn't necessary," he said, but his hands lingered near her files. Arielle's heart pounded. Her entire future, every late night, every tear, every sacrifice, was being stolen in a heartbeat. She yanked the laptop back and closed it forcefully, the screen black. Dalton stepped back, but the smirk on his face made Arielle's blood boil. Marisol leaned close. "Never trust someone who wants it all without effort," she whispered. Arielle's jaw tightened. One thought burned in her mind. If anyone's going to profit from this, it's going to be me. And she realized she wasn't tempted by money anymore. She was tempted by power. The power to protect what was hers. Outside the office, the city lights of Washington didn't feel quite so far away now. Arielle spent the next few days gathering evidence. Every line of code, every timestamp, every unusual log on her laptop that showed Dalton trying to copy her files, she documented it all. Marisol helped her record the attempts, capturing screenshots and keeping notes on the dates and times. They stayed up late, fueled by coffee, determination, and a simmering anger that refused to cool. Finally, the day arrived. The incubator's board had called a special review meeting to investigate the allegations of misconduct. Arielle entered the sleek conference room with her folder in hand, hands steady, heart pounding with the kind of adrenaline only injustice could produce. Dalton sat at the other end of the table, sharp suit, sharp smirk, but the confidence in his eyes faltered when he saw her walk in, calm and prepared. "Good morning," Arielle said clearly, voice steady. "I have evidence showing attempts to steal my prototype. Screenshots, logs, and timestamps all prove the integrity of my work and your breach of trust." The board members leaned in, eyes curious and attentive. Marisol quietly handed Arielle a USB drive containing the most damning proof. Arielle projected the logs onto the wall. The evidence was undeniable. Dalton had copied files without consent, attempted unauthorized access, and tried to manipulate her. A moment of silence hung in the room. Dalton opened his mouth to speak, but the head of the board cut him off. "This is a serious violation," the chairwoman said firmly. "You are banned from this incubator, effective immediately, and any attempts to contact members of this program or access any associated intellectual property will be met with legal action." Dalton's smirk faltered, replaced by a flash of anger. He muttered something under his breath, then left the room, shoulders tense. Arielle let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Justice had finally arrived. Afterward, as the board congratulated her and offered support for her project, one of the advisors pulled her aside. "You know," he said, "someone like you, tenacious, talented, and ethical, would make a strong impression in public initiatives. A Maryland senator's tech committee is looking for young innovators to consult on statewide projects. Arielle blinked. The thought seemed almost surreal. Maryland. Politics. Influence. Could she really have an opportunity to make a difference beyond her own struggles? Marisol leaned over, eyes sparkling. You see? They notice real talent. Not the fake hype, not the rich kids. You. Arielle felt a soft swell of pride and hope. For the first time in months, she imagined a future where her ideas mattered, where her hard work could create real impact, not just for herself, but for others. But before she could savor the moment, a tall man in a gray suit approached from the back of the conference room. His hair was streaked with silver, and he carried a presence that made people lean in slightly when he spoke. Ms. King, he said, voice smooth but commanding. I've been following your work. The way you handled the situation with Dalton, remarkable. Integrity, focus, resilience. I think we can make you the youngest CEO in the state. Arielle froze. Her mind raced. CEO. Control over her own company. Money. Influence. Responsibility. Fear. Excitement. Marisol's hand squeezed hers gently. You deserve this, she whispered. Arielle looked up at the man. Every rejection, every humiliation, every sleepless night had led her here. And now, everything could change. Arielle's first check from the tech incubator grant arrived on a crisp Monday morning, enough to rent a tiny co-working space and buy the essential software she needed to officially launch her startup. She stared at the number on the deposit slip like it was a dream she had no right to claim. Her hands shook as she drafted the company's charter, typed the name, Booker Tech Solutions, and sent her first official email to potential collaborators. Every click of the keyboard felt like a declaration. She wasn't the class loser anymore. She was a creator, an innovator, someone who could build something that mattered. The first few days were a whirlwind. Arielle wrote code from dawn to dusk, testing features, redesigning interfaces, and sketching marketing ideas. The office was small, bare concrete walls, a single window letting in a sliver of sunlight, but it was hers. The first piece of her dream materialized there, and she felt a quiet hum of triumph. Still, despite the excitement, she needed grounding. One morning, she slipped away from her laptop, leaving a note for Marisol, and took a bus back to Maryland. Her grandmother's grave waited quietly in the corner of the cemetery, surrounded by oak trees and fallen leaves. Arielle knelt before the stone etched with Marva Booker, 1948 to 2025. The wind whispered through the branches, carrying a chill and a sense of peace. I did it, Grandma, she whispered, fingers brushing the engraved letters. I started my company. I'm going to make it count. I'll make you proud. A soft tear slid down her cheek. She stayed there a long while, speaking to the grandmother who had raised her, taught her resilience, and reminded her that pain could be transformed into strength. When she finally stood, she felt lighter, fortified with purpose. She returned to Washington, her determination rekindled like fire in her chest. Back at the office, things began to accelerate. Early prototypes were sent out to a handful of clinics, and a few positive responses trickled in. Arielle reveled in the feeling of progress, the small victories stacking one atop the other. Every line of code, every problem solved, every satisfied beta tester was proof she was on the right path. Then, late one night, as she sipped the last of her cold coffee and glanced at her inbox, a familiar name popped up. Her heart skipped. Sienna Villard. Subject line: Hey loser, reunion's coming. You better look presentable. Arielle froze. Her hands hovered over the keyboard, an icy dread sliding down her spine. She remembered the hallways in Maryland, the cruel laughter, the video that had gone viral, the stolen notebook, and the rejection letters. Every humiliation flashed through her mind, sharp and vivid. But beneath the fear, there was something new: fire, determination, a refusal to shrink. She typed nothing. She didn't reply, yet the message reminded her that the past hadn't disappeared. It was waiting, watching, and the reunion, her old high school, the same people who had laughed at her for years, was coming. Arielle's pulse quickened. This wasn't just a reminder of who she was. It was a test of who she had become. And she realized, with a mix of anxiety and thrill, that the game was about to begin. Arielle read Sienna's email once, letting the words burn in her mind for a second, then closed her laptop. She didn't reply. She didn't cry. She didn't waste energy on the past. Every hour spent thinking about Sienna was an hour not spent building something real. She dove headfirst into her startup. Marisol worked beside her, coding and debugging, while Arielle handled pitches, investor calls, and product improvements. Slowly, the small grant transformed into something more substantial. First small contracts with clinics in Washington, then outreach to hospitals in Baltimore and Maryland's tech-friendly counties. Every deal felt like stacking bricks in a wall built just for her, a fortress against her former tormentors and the world that had doubted her. Months later, she found herself in Miami, negotiating a partnership with a mid-sized healthcare software company. The air smelled like salt water and possibility, the city alive with energy that matched the rapid beat of her own heart. "This could be your first million," Marisol whispered as Arielle signed the contract, her hand trembling with excitement and disbelief. Arielle exhaled, letting the reality sink in. The number on the contract, $1,002,450, was more than she had ever imagined holding in her life. It was her proof that persistence, skill, and hard work mattered more than cruelty and mockery. That evening, she sat on the balcony of her tiny Miami rental, staring at the neon glow reflecting off the ocean. She imagined her grandmother's proud face, Marva's voice whispering, "Greatness requires pain." This victory, small as it might seem to the world, was a direct answer to every humiliation, every loser label, every sneer from Sienna and her clique. But the world wasn't done testing her. Back in Washington, while Arielle slept, her inbox flooded with urgent notifications. Marisol woke her with a sharp tap on the shoulder. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. Arielle's eyes widened. Fairfield Tech, a powerful competitor known for hostile acquisitions, had made a public announcement. Their press release detailed a plan to acquire small but promising startups in the healthcare tech sector, and they had explicitly named Arielle's company, Booker Tech Solutions, as a target. The words felt like a punch to the gut. Investors' emails poured in, some congratulatory, some panicked. Headlines and industry blogs highlighted her as a rising star and the latest target of Fairfield Tech's aggressive expansion strategy. Arielle sank into her chair. The soft thrill of her first million had barely settled, and now the world was reminding her that success made her a target. Marisol leaned over, face tight with concern. "They're trying to bully you, Arielle. Just like back in Maryland. Only bigger." Arielle clenched her fists, jaw tightening. A familiar fire surged, the same one that had carried her through stolen notebooks, viral humiliation, and rejection letters. "You know," she said slowly, eyes narrowing, "they think they can take what I built. But they don't know me. They don't know what I'm capable of." The city lights outside flickered like tiny embers, mirroring the rage and determination building inside her. Fairfield Tech thought this would crush her. They had no idea. She would not only fight back, she would win. And the stakes had just grown higher than ever. Arielle sat in the small conference room at Booker Tech, Marisol by her side, staring at the screen displaying Fairfield Tech's public announcement. Their aggressive tone, the way they labeled her startup as ripe for acquisition, made her blood boil. This wasn't just business, it was personal. Every tactic they used mirrored the bullying she had endured in high school. But Arielle had learned something important. She didn't respond with fear. She responded with strategy. The next week became a whirlwind of legal filings. She contacted top lawyers recommended by her tech incubator mentors, laying the groundwork for a defensive case. Cease and desist notices went out, warnings were sent to shareholders, and Arielle personally called investors to assure them that she would protect her company. Each call, each document, each strategy session only fueled her determination. She was no longer the timid girl hiding in hallways, no longer the class loser. She was a force to be reckoned with. Then, unexpectedly, someone appeared at her office door. "Kellen?" she asked, blinking in disbelief. He looked older, wearier. His expensive suit hung loosely, his hands slightly shaky. "Arielle," he said quietly. I heard what's happening. I need to apologize for everything. For Sienna. For the notebook. For, well, everything." Arielle's eyes narrowed. She didn't speak. She didn't know if she could trust him. "I'm divorced now," Kellen continued, voice low. "And I see things differently. I know I was part of the problem in Maryland, but I also know you're brilliant, and I want to help." Arielle studied him. Something in his eyes, regret, sincerity, perhaps even admiration, made her pause. Marisol nudged her. "He might be useful," she whispered. Arielle took a deep breath. "All right," she said carefully. "You can assist, but one wrong move, and you're out." Kellen nodded eagerly. Understood. With his connections to tech investors, Kellen helped Arielle identify weaknesses in Fairfield Tech's shareholder structure. They found investors who were unhappy with the company's aggressive acquisitions and negotiated discreetly to buy small but crucial stakes. Every hour brought Arielle closer to leverage. Weeks of late-night strategy, legal maneuvering, and careful negotiation finally paid off. With the last transaction finalized, Arielle stared at her laptop in disbelief. A single click. The news flashed across the screen. Booker Tech Solutions has acquired a controlling share of Fairfield Tech. Her heart raced. She had done the impossible. The company that had threatened to crush her dreams was now hers. Overnight, she had gone from target to owner, from underdog to CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech giant. Marisol jumped up, hugging her. You actually did it." Arielle laughed, a low, triumphant sound. But even as joy surged through her, she felt the weight of what had just happened. Every decision from now on, every move, could change her future or destroy it. Then, as she leaned back, staring at the city skyline, a notification popped up on her phone. "Sienna." No message preview, just a text. Arielle's thumb hovered over the screen. Her chest tightened, pulse racing. The stakes had just gone from business to personal. Arielle sat in her corner office at the top floor of the newly acquired Fairfield Tech building, the city lights of Washington sparkling beneath her. She had never imagined a view like this, the vast skyline, the hum of a city alive with possibility. Her hands rested lightly on the polished oak desk, feeling the weight and power of her new reality. She was a millionaire, a CEO, someone who had clawed her way from hallways of ridicule to the apex of a company that once sought to destroy her. Emails, contracts, and investor calls filled her day, but for once, she felt in control. Every decision, every strategy, every project was hers. Her company reflected her vision, her values, her resilience. During a brief pause, Marisol stepped into the office, holding a coffee cup and smiling brightly. "I can't believe we're actually here," she said, setting the coffee down. "We worked for this," Arielle replied, smiling back. "We didn't wait for anyone to give it to us. We built it ourselves." Marisol grinned. "Then we deserve a little reward, right?" Arielle's phone pinged, a confirmation from a real estate agent. She had purchased a modest but beautiful townhouse in Maryland for Marisol, fully furnished, with space for her to breathe, work, and grow. Arielle wanted to repay her roommate for the countless nights of support, coding sessions, and late-night pep talks. "You didn't have to," Marisol said, eyes misty. "I did," Arielle replied softly. "You were family when I needed one. Consider it an investment in the person who saved me as much as I saved myself." The soft glow of satisfaction filled the room. Arielle felt pride, love, and accomplishment all at once. She had come a long way. No one could touch what she had built. No Dalton, no Fairfield Tech before her acquisition, no Sienna. She was untouchable. And yet, that evening, as she cleared her desk and prepared to leave, a small envelope appeared in the lobby's mail basket. The handwriting was unmistakable, familiar, cruel, taunting. She tore it open with measured calm. Inside, the card read, 10-year high school reunion. Come, we need entertainment. Arielle's breath caught. The words were simple but laced with mockery. Her past, the humiliation, the viral videos, the stolen notebook, the endless sneers, was reaching out, daring her to show up. Her mind raced. The reunion. Sienna. The clique. Every scar, every tear, every late-night heartbreak. It was all tied to that place. But the fire inside her now wasn't fear. It wasn't insecurity. It was power. Every rejection, every act of cruelty, every underestimation had forged her into someone stronger, smarter, unstoppable. Arielle folded the card carefully, letting the words linger. She looked out over the city one last time before leaving the office. The lights glimmered, each one a promise, a testament to her resilience. If they wanted entertainment, they would get it. But not in the way they expected. This time, she was in control. And she wasn't just attending the reunion. She was arriving to conquer. Arielle sat in her Fairfield tech office, the reunion invitation folded neatly on her desk. Her eyes traced the elegant cursive, the smug undertone, the invitation to humiliation disguised as a social event. She leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled, mind racing. Should she go? Part of her wanted to ignore it entirely, to stay in her penthouse, surrounded by her success, insulated from the ghosts of her past. Another part, a part that had always been underestimated, felt a surge of determination. She wanted to see Sienna, to see the clique that had tormented her, and to show them everything they had tried to crush, alive, thriving, untouchable. Marisol peeked into the office. You're thinking about it, aren't you? Arielle sighed. I'm not sure. Part of me says no. Part of me says they deserve to see me, and I want them to know exactly what they missed. Marisol nodded, understanding without judgment. Whatever you decide, it has to be on your terms. Make it unforgettable. Make it you. That night, Arielle needed perspective beyond her office walls. She took a drive to Maryland, to her grandmother's old church. The building was small, worn, and filled with the faint scent of incense and aged wood. Sunlight filtered through stained glass, casting colorful patterns on the floor. Arielle knelt in a pew, hands folded, head bowed. Grandma, she whispered, voice trembling. I'm scared. I don't want to be petty, but they hurt me. They made me feel small my whole life. Should I go? The church felt alive with echoes of Marva's voice, her faith, her wisdom. Arielle imagined her grandmother's steady, unwavering presence beside her. She felt a calmness she hadn't felt in years, a sense that whatever decision she made, it had to honor not just her feelings, but the strength her grandmother had instilled in her. Arielle closed her eyes. She envisioned herself walking into the reunion, not timid, not ashamed, but powerful. Every late night, every rejection, every heartbreak had led to this. This wasn't about revenge. It was about presence, about showing herself, fully, to the world she had once feared. When she left the church, the decision had crystallized. Her heart raced not with fear, but with anticipation. Back in Washington, she made arrangements with a private aviation service. A sleek black helicopter would pick her up from her company's rooftop and land directly at the high school's parking lot. She envisioned the helicopter's blades slicing through the sky, a symbol of her ascent, her power, her triumph over the girl they had once mocked. Marisol stared at her incredulously. A helicopter? Really? Arielle smiled, a slow, confident curve of her lips. If they want to see me, I want them to remember it. They should understand exactly how far I've come. Marisol shook her head, laughing softly. Okay, CEO. You're insane. But I love it. Arielle's pulse quickened. Every detail was falling into place. The helicopter, the arrival, the message she would send without words. She glanced once more at the invitation. The reunion would be theirs to control. But the spotlight, that would be hers. The blades of the helicopter sliced through the crisp Washington air, the city shrinking beneath Arielle as she soared higher. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the skyline, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet. Each rotation of the rotor felt like a drumbeat in her chest, a rhythm that matched her racing heart. She leaned against the leather seat, looking out over the passing cities, rivers, and forests, the landscape unfolding beneath her like a tapestry of possibility. The wind rushed against the windows, tangling her thoughts with exhilaration and anticipation. Her mind wandered back to that shy 18-year-old in Maryland, the girl in thrift-store clothes, stuttering in hallways, crushed by laughter and rumors. Arielle's lips curved into a soft smile, and she whispered, almost to herself, "You made it." The words felt sacred. Not for anyone else, not for Sienna, not for the clique, not for the world that once mocked her. These words were for the girl who had endured every humiliation, every heartbreak, every night of exhaustion, every stolen idea. Marisol sat beside her, quietly adjusting Arielle's laptop and reviewing final notes for any potential investor calls after the reunion. She glanced at Arielle and smiled knowingly. "You're nervous," she said. Arielle shook her head, trying to suppress the thrill. "No, just ready." The flight was smooth, the hum of the helicopter a constant companion. Outside, New Jersey's patchwork of suburbs and schoolyards grew larger, the roads and buildings forming familiar shapes. The closer they drew, the more Arielle felt a surge of tension mixed with empowerment. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a stage, a theater where her past and present collided. She thought about every rejection letter, every cruel video, every locker slammed in her face. She thought about her grandmother, Marva, and every lesson etched into her heart. She thought about Marisol, her partner in late-night coding battles, and every shared laugh, every shared tear. And she thought about Sienna. The helicopter descended steadily, rotors whipping the autumn leaves into a frenzy as the high school's parking lot came into view. Students, parents, and faculty were gathering, a cluster of small figures in the distance. Arielle felt the thrill of suspense coil in her stomach, adrenaline mixing with satisfaction. She gripped the edge of her seat, the leather warm beneath her fingers, and felt the power of the moment surge through her. The pilot eased the helicopter down, skimming the asphalt of the parking lot, and the rotor washed through papers, leaves, and dust into spiraling chaos. And then, the skids touched the ground. The helicopter settled, whirring, powerful, and commanding. From the edge of the crowd, a murmur rippled through the group. Faces turned upward, eyes widening. Whispers grew into gasps, and a few people covered their mouths in disbelief. Sienna froze, hand midair, phone poised to record. Arielle stepped out of the helicopter, tall, confident, polished, the image of success incarnate. Her black blazer shimmered subtly in the dying sunlight, her hair sleek, her expression serene but fierce. Every eye was on her. Every whisper carried her name. The bullies from her past, the ones who had mocked her, humiliated her, and laughed at her, gasped in shock. For a brief, cinematic moment, the world stopped. And Arielle smiled. Arielle's heels clicked against the asphalt as she strode toward the crowd, every eye following her. The high school parking lot, once a theater of humiliation, was now the stage for her triumph. Students, parents, and faculty alike murmured, pointing and whispering, as if the air itself knew something monumental was about to unfold. Sienna stood frozen near the steps of the school, phone still in hand, lips parted in disbelief. Briar, her usual sidekick, looked nervously at her, eyes darting between Arielle and the crowd. And then Kellen, older, divorced, regret etched into his face, stood slightly apart, silently watching. Arielle stopped a few feet from them, letting the helicopter rotors fade into a soft hum behind her. She took a breath, letting the tension in her shoulders melt into purpose. "This is me," she began, voice calm but piercing. "The girl you called a loser, the girl you humiliated, mocked, and laughed at for years. That girl, she built something you never thought she could. She took every rejection, every rumor, every stolen notebook, and she turned it into power, into success, into truth." Sienna opened her mouth to retort, but Arielle raised a hand, commanding silence. "You," Arielle said, locking eyes with Sienna, "thought you could define me. You thought your laughter, your videos, your rumors could keep me small. But here I am." Briar shifted uneasily. Arielle turned to Kellen. "And you? You betrayed me once, but I see you now, regretful, trying to help. I forgive you, Kellen. You were young and foolish, and I've learned that people can change." Kellen nodded slowly, relief and gratitude warring on his face. Sienna's jaw tightened, and she whispered loudly enough for those around her to hear. "Oh yeah? Remember the rumor about her family? Maybe they're still." The words hung in the air like a match over gasoline. A few of the old students started to murmur nervously, unsure if Sienna had actually gone too far. Then something remarkable happened. A voice from the crowd shouted, "That's ridiculous. She's done more than any of us ever will." Another voice joined in. "Yeah, Sienna. Who cares about some old high school gossip?" Within seconds, the crowd had turned, and whispers became shouts of support for Arielle. Parents and former classmates rallied, affirming her character, her brilliance, her courage. Sienna's smug confidence crumbled as the power shifted. Her words, meant to humiliate, bounced off invisible walls of respect and admiration for the woman standing before them. Arielle kept her gaze steady, her voice low but firm. "Rumors don't define me. Actions do. And my actions, my work, my perseverance, that's the legacy I'm building." Sienna's face paled. Briar looked around nervously, wishing she could disappear. And Kellen, standing behind Arielle, offered a small, proud smile, silently applauding her composure. The crowd erupted, cheering Arielle, clapping, and shouting her name. Her triumph wasn't just personal, it was public, undeniable, and transformative. Arielle felt a wave of vindication wash over her, not through revenge, but through presence, resilience, and undeniable achievement. And as Sienna shrank back, powerless in the face of her own cruelty, Arielle knew the final act. The reunion of past pain and present power was nearly complete. Arielle stepped onto the makeshift stage in the high school gym. The helicopters hum a distant memory outside. Hundreds of eyes followed her, some curious, some skeptical, and a few, like Sienna's, filled with disbelief. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every year, every tear, every humiliation. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady, resonant. 10 years ago, I walked these halls as someone you called a loser. I was mocked for my clothes, my stutter, my hair, and yes, even my dreams. Some of you spread rumors about me. Some of you laughed at me. Some of you stole from me. And it hurt. Deeply. She paused, letting the words settle. Her gaze swept over familiar faces, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. But here's what I learned. Cruelty doesn't create winners. Kindness, persistence, and belief in yourself do. Every act of cruelty you thought broke me only forged me into someone stronger. Sienna's lips trembled. Her hands clenched as memories of mockery, stolen notebooks, and viral videos replayed in her mind. Arielle's calm, commanding presence made the years of pride and arrogance crumble. Arielle continued, voice rising gently with a rhythm that felt almost musical. I worked jobs I didn't want. I studied when I was tired. I cried when I was lonely. I failed and I failed again. But each failure was a lesson. Each heartbreak, a stepping stone. And today, I stand before you, not to gloat, not to shame, but to show that resilience and integrity will always outlast cruelty. A few students whispered, nodding, their admiration palpable. Sienna's face broke, tears streaming down her cheeks. Briar put her hand on Sienna's shoulder, stunned, speechless. Arielle's eyes softened. I forgive those who hurt me, and I forgive myself for ever doubting my worth. But more importantly, I want everyone here to understand. Your words, your actions, your choices, they have power. Use it wisely. The pain you cause may linger longer than you imagine. She stepped back from the microphone, letting silence fill the gym, letting the weight of her words resonate. Every cheer, every tear, every gasp was a testament to the transformation she had undergone. A current student, inspired by her courage, raised a phone and began recording. Unknown to Arielle, the video captured every word, every moment of calm authority, every tear, every breath. When she walked out of the gym later, Marisol waiting with a proud smile, Arielle felt a surge of peace, dignity, and unshakable power. She had not just returned. She had transcended the pain of her past. That evening, the video went viral. Millions across the nation watched as the once-mocked class loser told her story with clarity, compassion, and courage. Comments poured in, people inspired, crying, sharing stories of their own resilience. Arielle's journey became a symbol, a beacon for anyone doubted, underestimated, or belittled. And in that moment, the world understood, triumph was not about revenge. It was about rising with grace, strength, and integrity. Everyone watching this, remember Arielle's story. No matter your past, your pain, or the people who doubted you, your journey is yours to own. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because if one story can inspire millions, imagine what your story could do. Share this video, comment your victories, and never let anyone define your worth. Rise, just like Arielle.